It's a wonderful day in the homiehood, a wonderful day for a homie. Won't you be my homie to Taro? Today is Monday, March 13th, and we are about to dig into the Canadian news just like we do every weekday morning. So, one thing that everyone is kind of talking about over the weekend is that Meta is going to end Canadians' access to news on Facebook and Instagram if Bill C-18 becomes law. Now, if you don't know, Bill C-18 is the Online News Act, and it's a potential effort by the Canadian government to get big tech corporations like Meta and Facebook and Google and Amazon and whoever to pay for the links that they share for media sites like the Globe and Mail or Global News or CBC in order to share those links, which in a way generate money for those big tech advertisers. They would have to direct some of that money to these news organizations. So, tech giant Meta has decided to block Canadians' ability to view or share news content on Facebook and Instagram if Ottawa's online news bill becomes law. The Globe and Mail has learned. Now, I don't really know who shares news on Instagram. I guess you could link it in the stories, but I don't really think that's a common way for people to get news. I guess I also wonder, like, hey, I'm streaming the Globe and Mail right now. Do you think that Twitch would have to pay for me to stream this content? I don't know. It does raise some interesting ethical dilemmas. For me, what I would like to see is that, hey, you know what? We should just tax these companies more. I don't know why we have to try to make this direct link. I think that makes it really difficult. But yes, we should tax big tech more. We should invest more in our journalists here in Canada. I just don't know if this is the best way to do it. So, the company made the decision this week amid concerns that it is not clear what the financial burden imposed by the legislation known as Bill C-18 will be. The bill would make Google and Meta compensate news organizations for posting or linking to their work. A spokesperson for Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, said the company is planning to remove Canadians' access to both written and broadcast news after Bill C-18 becomes law, if changes to the legislation are not made. The tech giant said it would warn Canadians of changes to its service in advance. So, of course, Bill C-18 is something that is not passed through the House yet. It is being considered by the Senate, and it is expected to complete its passage through Parliament by this summer. If the Online News Act passes in its current form, we will end the availability of news content on Facebook and Instagram for people in Canada, said Lisa Leventour, a Meta spokesperson. So I guess part of my concern of this as well is that if Meta, Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, whatever, all those companies that Meta owns, ends their linking to news sites, what happens to like fake news sites? Like, is Rebel News a big enough news organization that it wouldn't be caught under this legislation, or would fake news still be allowed to exist? And couldn't you also still just share fake news, except not directly linking it, or share the actual news without directly linking it, like a series of screenshots, for example? So, my concern with all of this is that if Facebook and Instagram pull out from this, that maybe fake news will just be more common, more allowed to grow. So, Lisa Leventour, Meta spokesperson, continues on to say, a legislative framework that compels us to pay for links or content that we do not post and which are not the reason the vast majority of people use our platform is neither sustainable nor workable. So it is also saying that less than 3% of what Canadians see on their Facebook feeds constitute news articles and links to them. So Minister Pablo Rodriguez, the Minister of Heritage, said that Meta's decision to pull back from the news is a threat that is simply intended to persuade the government to back down from Bill C-18. So currently, publishers can share links and other content from their websites on their Facebook pages. The platform has argued that this provides free marketing for news organizations with an estimated value of more than $230 million. And I guess, it kind of is a fair point that when I'm doing this, for example, you could say that it's giving free advertising to the Globe and Mail because that's what we're reading right now. You could say the same thing when Globe and Mail gets to use Facebook, where there are a bunch of people in order to promote their content, or there are just random people sharing their content. In a way, isn't that the same as free advertising? And in my opinion, it's a fair argument. I think we should tax these companies. I just think trying to make this direct link from new media and old media is part of the problem. So this is also coming at a time when Facebook now is exploring plans to launch a Twitter rival, partly because it's failing in its attempt to create a metaverse, a virtual world where users interact and work, and they maybe sense some weakness on part of Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. So we might see another app from Meta that is more like Twitter. Not that I would necessarily gravitate towards something like that, but they are expanding. They are making, billions of dollars, probably billions of dollars in Canada, and they're maybe just not willing to pay a bit more in order to help support the most important content, in my opinion, which is journalism. So in other news, we're going across the ocean here to the UK. BBC is facing a staff mutiny after Gary Lineker's suspension. Now, Gary Lineker is a former soccer star in the UK, and they're someone who became a broadcaster, a sportscaster, and they're very popular. They got in trouble for saying some things about the new immigration policy that is happening in the UK that we have here from Rishi Sunak. Now, Rishi Sunak says that in the new laws in the UK against people who are trying to migrate there, under these laws, you cannot claim asylum. You can't benefit from modern slavery protections. You can't make spurious human rights claims, which means like fake human rights claims. And the bottom line being here is that you can't stay. So this is part of a campaign to discourage migrants from coming to the UK. And the real kind of heart-wrenching part to all of this is that they're saying, hey, you won't be protected from modern slavery practices. So if you come here, not only can you not stay, but you also might be kidnapped and forced into slavery, and we're not going to protect you in any way. So it's very strange and like this is tweeted out, official account, and it says here, they're putting that emphasis on you will be denied access to the UK's modern slavery system. It doesn't even say modern slavery protections. It literally makes it sound like they will put you into a slavery system. So this is absolutely wild, and it's great to see someone, especially someone who's like not even in news but in sports, call out about this. Now, they did say that these measures are comparable to the Holocaust or what happened in Germany during World War II, and which did spark a little bit of outrage in its own way. So the turmoil began on Tuesday when Mr. Lineker criticized the British government's new measures to crack down on illegal immigration through increased detentions and deportations. This is just an immeasurable, cruel policy directed at the most vulnerable people in language that is not dissimilar to that used by Germany in the 30s. And I'm out of order, Mr. Lineker said in a tweet. So, the BBC is saying, hey, you're out of order for taking this stance. And Mr. Lineker here is maybe fighting back and saying, wait, I'm the one out of order? I think the British government is actually the one out of order. I think Rishi Sunak, who's tweeting out, hey, you might get abducted and integrated into the slavery and you won't be protected. I think that is really what is out of order. So, of course, there was a conservative MP who is a bit reactionary here saying, hey, how dare you? My husband is Jewish and my children are descendants of the Holocaust survivors. So it's like, okay, whoa. But I mean, they are literally talking about slavery here. So maybe this is not one of those moments where people are virtue signaling for the wrong reasons. So what was interesting was Mr. Lankier stood by his remarks, and his co-workers also all rallied around. So Mr. Lankier said, hey, you're not going to be able to go on with your show. You're basically suspended from the BBC, and this is going to be under review. And all of his co-workers on his show said, well, if Gary's not coming to work, we're not coming to work either. And it even spread to other shows on the BBC, and people were saying, hey, we're not coming to work either. If you're not allowed to say something like, hey, slavery is bad, on your personal Twitter, and then maybe like the BBC is not a great place to work. So Labour Party leader Keir Starmer, who has their own problems, the Labour Party in the UK is not what it used to be, said that it is not impartial for BBC to cave into Tory MPs complaining about Gary Lineker. It's the opposite of impartial. He pointed out that the BBC chairman Richard Sharp has faced calls to resign after revelations that he helped arrange a loan of up to £800,000 or 1.3 million US dollars or Canadian dollars, probably. This is a Canadian outlet, for then Prime Minister Boris Johnson in 2020. So there's a potential conflict of interest here between Richard Sharp, BBC chairman, and the Conservative Party in Britain. Mr. Starmer and others have said that if Mr. Lineker is dismissed by the BBC for breaching impartiality rules, Mr. Sharp should be fired as well. Yeah, I mean, kind of makes sense. So they have reviewed this dispute as well. This is just as little as 2 hours ago as the time of me reporting this. The BBC has resolved its dispute with top sportscaster Gary Lineker and committed to reviewing its social media guidelines for staff. So luckily they did kind of like figure their ish out, and they're reviewing their social media guidelines. So that is good to hear. And I think it's really important to just like look at this and be like, whoa, this is how media outlets are potentially reacting to criticizing their own government, which is kind of like the point of being a media outlet, especially the public broadcaster, the way BBC is. If something like this were happening at the CBC, I think it would be quite shocking. Okay, and in our last story of today, we're just going to cut it down to 3 stories now, just so we can get these videos out quicker. Progressive Conservative MPP Vincent Ke has left the caucus after allegations of election interference. So this is another story people were talking about over the weekend, part of the sensationalized news around China and election interference. And we know that there are some conservative members and more liberal members, but so far this is the first one coming out about somebody specific, and it's Vincent Ke of the Conservatives in Ontario. So a member of Ontario's legislature has left the Progressive Conservative Caucus, which means that they are just leaving the voting block of the Progressive Conservatives. They are not leaving the House altogether, after allegations that he was part of a Beijing-led effort to interfere with the 2019 federal election. And of course, Vincent Ke is denying these allegations. Vincent Ke, an MPP who has represented Don Valley North since 2018, will now sit as an independent. In a statement posted to Twitter on Friday, Mr. Ke denied allegations. While the Global News allegations about me are false and defamatory, I do not want to be a distraction to the government and take away from the good work Premier Ford is doing for the province of Ontario. So this is very strange because obviously the Conservatives federally have been really hard on Justin Trudeau for this issue, trying to paint him as someone who is in bed with China, which is like obviously would be shocking if that were actually true, but it's probably not true, because tensions with China and Canada have gotten worse under Justin Trudeau. So, that would be like a shocking actual revelation. But conservatives like Pierre Poilievre are trying to paint this on Justin Trudeau, and now it's coming out that, hey, it's a conservative in Ontario who is going potentially acting on the behest of China. So Vincent Ke going on here. Therefore, I will continue I will step away from the PC caucus in order to dedicate my time to clearing my name and representing my constituents. So it's weird to me that he's like staying on in his role, but he's basically just trying to distance himself from the conservative party. It's like, well, I mean, I'm still going to consider this person a conservative. They ran as a conservative and they won as a conservative. So if more revelations come out, and if he's not able to clear his name in any significant way, then I am going to still consider him a conservative. So there is more here. The official report from Global News. Again, none of these things are corroborated. These are leaks that are coming out of the government. Some people are saying, hey, you know what? This is just xenophobia. However, there is a reporter, a Chinese language reporter, Jack Jia, who says that, you know, they use racism to distract from the real issues here. And the real issue might be that Vincent Ke is in bed with China. He is a Chinese national, and there are potentially there's potentially a history of him being I don't know, working with China in order to be a politician in Canada. So it's definitely something that might need a closer look at. I don't like jumping to conclusions when it comes to these things because I feel like racism can play a role in this stuff. However, there are some pretty interesting things. The high level document that is accusing Vincent Ke of all this is produced by the Intelligent Assessment Secretariat, a division of the PCO, which I believe is the Privy Council Office, that regularly provides national security alerts for Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his cabinet. Now, what I do worry about the current situation is that it seems like there are people at CSIS who are leaking things that are meant to make Justin Trudeau look bad. And now potentially there are other people leaking things that are maybe made to make the Conservatives look bad. So are we really just going to stoop to this level of intelligence reporting where intelligence can get leaked, and then a major news outlet like Global News or Globe and Mail can report on that intelligence saying, hey, it's not confirmed, but that's what CSIS is saying, or that's what the Intelligence Assessment Secretariat is saying, and then like we just have to accept it as fact. And I'm really worried that this will be drawn out in the media for years and years, and we're going to get this more and more fear of like, oh my goodness, democracy in Canada is not safe, and it's being interrupted by Chinese interests. And personally, I think that is not really a good road to go down, but we seem set on going down it. Thanks for getting the news here with my homie Tutaro. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. If you can, it's great if you can comment timestamps in the comments. It helps people find the stories when we publish them, and we really appreciate you. Question of the day is, who did you like that won an Oscar over the weekend? Was there anyone that you thought deserved it and didn't get it? Or is there anyone who you thought didn't deserve it and they did get it? Please let us know in the comments if you're into that kind of thing. If you didn't watch, just say, hey, I didn't watch because I'm not into that stuff. I like getting the news. I'm not that much into movies and all of that. So, you know, keep getting the news right here with my homie Tutaro.